Much welcome and good afternoon, everyone. Virtually Somerville is being recorded. Virtually Somerville is a Chamber Public Affairs series over the next month at noon on Tuesdays. The series will bring Chamber members and guests, one of the candidates for Councilor at Large. The format will begin with a brief introduction of the candidate, and the candidate will then be given an opportunity to deliver opening remarks. And then an audience candidate question and answer session will ensue. My name is Stephen Mackey. I am the Somerville Chamber President and today's moderator. When we get to the Q&A, I will ask you to use your raise hand function in the Zoom program. I will recognize hands and invite you to identify yourself and to ask your question. City Councilor Kristen Strezo is a candidate for re-election to her third term. Kristen Strezo was born on the south side of Chicago. She's the descendant of factory workers. She studied community activism at DePaul University. She graduated with honors with a degree in women's studies and communications. She earned a degree from Harvard University Extension. Kristen lives in Assembly Square with her 2 children and their dog, Martha. Councilor, welcome to today's program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, and many of the people here are familiar with you, but some might not be so much. So if you could just kind of give us some introductory remarks. I want to point out to everybody that when I first started to invite the councilors at large, I got crickets. The first one that stepped up and said, I'll do it, and I'll take the first one, was Councilor Strezo. And then the others followed suit. So we have a roster coming up in the ensuing weeks, but I want to especially thank Councilor Strezo for going first. Now I'll hand it over to you for as long as you please, Councilor Strezo, and then when you'd like to, we'll go into Q&A.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the chance to speak with you all today, and thank you for all you do for our community. So I'm City Councilor Kristen Strezo. I'm an at-large councilor. I'm in my 2nd term, proudly running for my 3rd term. I love our city and the work we do together, and I'm honored to serve you. Many of you I already know. We've spoken at chamber events or by phone or in your businesses, and I do like to come to chamber events when my schedule allows, and not just for the great appetizers. For those who are getting to know me, I was sworn into my councilor role during the pandemic, and I got right to work advocating in every direction possible to sustain our community in one of the most uncertain times of our city and nation's history. I work to prevent displacement and support all our residents, and also to support our small businesses, and be on the ground listening and taking action. And I am the chair of the Housing and Community Development Committee, and I focus on ensuring that our city is growing without leaving anyone out, with the goal to action and focus on fixing issues as they come. I am also the City Council liaison on the Small Business Anti-Displacement Task Force, a role I'm delighted to be a part of. Overall, I am not interested in words, I'm interested in action. I am interested in getting things done. I'm here to advocate for our community and to work alongside you. And now that the pandemic restrictions and the pandemic programs and grant programs are evaporating and are set to end, we need to ensure we're continuing to be in a good position to thrive. I work hard to ensure our small businesses and our business community are thriving, and that we can ensure that not just your perseverance, but continued success. Chamber members, you are valued members of Somerville, and I see every member of our community as partners. I'm always willing to listen to you. I want to collaborate with you and find ways on how we can. I'm happy to meet you and always to hear about your concerns, and because we're working together for an even stronger Somerville. I welcome the dialogue and the discussion. And also, if you live in Somerville, I'm asking for your vote so we can continue on this work together.
Stephen, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I have it. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Counselor. Maybe I'll start it off. We have, I'm curious, after two terms now, you're coming to the end of two terms, is what is the moment as a counselor at large and that you're probably the most proud of?
I can't really say it's one specific moment, but I can say when I really work hard for a constituent or a small business owner and I get the information, and I think the proudest moment I have is when I'm walking down the street and someone comes up to me and rushes and hugs me. and sometimes I haven't actually met the person in person because we may have communicated via phone or email only, and I was able to get that information or connect them to the resources. So sometimes we're meeting for the first time, but those are moments of such joy for me.
Adam Courtney, you have your hand raised, and invite others to use your Zoom function to raise your hand, and we'll recognize you. Adam, go ahead.
Sure. I think the question I have is, because housing displacement and the lack of housing in Somerville is a regional issue and a national issue, and it's solved mostly by state and federal funding, and not necessarily, you can't really move the needle with city funds. While we've done a lot here pushing for that, how much can the city council do, and you as a leader, and I know you're down there and we've talked about this a lot, like how many roofs can we get over heads versus how nice of a roof, like what can we do? What have you done, or what can you do on the state and federal level to get more housing so there's less displacement in Somerville? Because we just don't have the capacity in a city, on the city level, to actually move the needle. And no city does. It's a federal and a state funding issue. So on those levels, what can you do, or have you done?
I think that's a great question. And I think that, yes, state and federal funds are absolutely, and let's call it what it is, the lack of investment over the past decades of both state and federal funding in affordable housing initiatives is long overdue. I am someone that sees our affordable housing crisis, our housing crisis, as an and, meaning that we in Massachusetts, we do have state funding. We're one of the few states that does have funding for housing in housing authorities in the state. Most are federally owned. So I am the kind of person that believes that we can do a lot of things municipally as well. So when we talk statewide, if we're federally, I'd like to just focus state if I may, because federally is a whole hour-long conversation. But if we talk state, I am one of the members of TOPA, which is a organization that considers the option of creating options for communities to be able to create affordable housing initiatives in their state. That's state delegation work. I have continued on that work for several terms of that. This is a crisis that's happening across the whole Commonwealth. It isn't unique, as you said, to Adam. It's not unique to just Somerville, and we do a lot at a city level. But there is state funding necessary. Your question was specifically state and federal, and I'm bringing it down to state because for time. So pushing initiatives for more funding at a state level, and also the infrastructure that has gone into affordable housing projects, they need more backing. There's a lot of crumbling infrastructure that needs to be addressed. And I think that but that is also more of a midterm or long-term plan. And we need short-term solutions as well. And that's what I try to focus with an and on, is what can we do more citywide, addressing issues as that. And there are definite things we can do. I know this is only 40 minutes. I'm trying to be mindful of time. But we do have solutions, and we can go deeper into it later. Always happy to have a coffee over it. But so it's an and pushing for more state responses and funding and legislation, which are continued and have been continued, and then what we can do municipally as well as that. And I hope that was helpful, at least with what I was trying to say.
Thank you very much. I'd ask if you have trouble clicking on the Zoom raised hand function, you can simply wave yourself. Jack Connolly. You have to unmute, Jack. There you go. You're muted, Jack.
Jack, you're muted.
I am fixing it, Mr. Bruin. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Councilor Strezo. Thanks for being on hand. I'm in Davis Square right now, and as we speak, we have a lot of people who have some serious drug and mental health issues who make Davis Square their daily home. And right now, we have almost a dozen empty storefronts here in Davis Square. When is there going to be some improvement on the city paying attention to what's going on in Davis? So more importantly, what isn't happening here? I hear it from merchants. I hear it from my neighbors all the time that Davis Square is basically being ignored. Yeah, there's a little bit of street work beginning to happen now because it made a lot of noise. When do you think some focus is going to be put on, number one, the problem that we have here, the drug and mental health problem with people in the square, but also the economic development that is not happening? Be Fresh is leaving the square, which is a major blow, I think, to a lot of our residents who use that facility a couple of 3 times a week. What do you think is a solution, and which direction should we be heading here in Davis Square?
I'm really glad that you asked this. And I want to very much say that Davis Square is not forgotten. Davis Square is, definitely cherished and definitely pushed for and advocated for. Davis Square is always in my heart. Now, I'm so glad you were talking about some of the storefronts, because you have 2 questions in there, and I want to really focus on the since we're talking chamber, because this isn't all circling. Let's talk about the storefronts, which is really exciting because in the anti-displacement task force, we are currently talking about something that Arlington did and that Lowell, I believe, recently put forward, which is a vacant storefront fine for when owners do not rent out that location. And the goal of it is that keeping the small businesses and businesses in the square and finding ways and solutions. There are a lot of thoughts on this, and the Arlington one has been implemented. I want to say how long it is, but it's an ordinance. It's already through. So that is something I very much support. I think it will help us, and this is citywide. And then we have to also talk about how we can, and this is an ongoing conversation, but how we can continually support small businesses so they can stay in their spaces, because I'm starting to hear that too, and also that whole stretch of a block and what happens. I do worry about the neighborhood. It is on my mind. I do worry about the neighborhood of losing. I am worried. I don't want it to be a food desert, or if we lose, well, with Be Fresh or say McKinnon. So this is an ongoing conversation, but I want action happening fast. I don't want to sit on this long.
Well, one more quick one, if I may, Mr. Chairman. There's been talk, and there's a consultant who's hired by the city and recommended having a safe consumption center, aka drug injection facility, in either East Somerville or the Davis Square area. What's the status on that right now? Because that's not very popular around here in Davis Square at the moment.
You would have to ask the administration on that. I am not on that committee. Now, when we talk about, if you will, if you talk about like a lot of displaced and unhoused residents in the neighborhood, I have been in. First off, winter is coming, and we know that a lot. It's going to most likely be cold. This is a conversation both in East Somerville and in Davis Square of ongoing. And I feel I've been in communication with Connection and have been in meetings, and also checking in with what other communities are doing, including and have been having weekly conversations with Somerville Homeless Coalition about what's going on and how are we best serving, and also that this is a continued conversation. And regarding your specific question, we do have our ward committee meetings coming up in the fall. I don't remember if Ward 6 if the date was confirmed yet, but that would be a question to follow up on the consumption sites, because I'm curious too where the status is on it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Kane.
I'm one of those people that can't raise their hand, so I have to do it visually. You've been on the council for a while, so I'm guessing you got the lay of the land. What do you think the three big challenges for the city council are for the next 2 years? Not so much the city, but more of your fellow people around the horseshoe.
That's a great question.
I try to ask good ones, so it's...
I don't know. I think the spirit of collaboration is important. Finding ways that we can work together. And I'm always focused on how our budget, how our money is best serving our constituents and our small businesses and those that continue to invest in Somerville as us as a community. And so I can't really give a 3, but I can say that collaboration is important. Collaboration and respect is most important, and we work together.
Thank you.
Okay. Christopher Vining.
Hi, this is Chris Vining. I'm down in Ward 6 on College Ave, and I'm a small business owner of a cannabis retail store here in Davis Square. My question is going to be a little bit self-serving here, and curious your thoughts on some of the new regulations coming out surrounding cannabis social consumption, and how you see that coming to Somerville. I know that the city initially was going to be one of the groups for a pilot program that I think we've seen a lot of issues at the state level with the rollout of that. And I'm very interested to see your take on, social consumption lounges, restaurants, bar type of environments or concert venues coming to Somerville.
Thank you for that question, Chris. I do not have enough information on that. Now, when you speak of social consumption regulations, are you talking state or federal regulations?
State regulations. The state's going to be releasing new regulations surrounding social consumption, hopefully towards the end of this year, that will create economic opportunity for social equity candidates like myself, who may look to get into the industry through social consumption lounges, call them. It's something that, I think could be a nice opportunity for a square like Davis Square to embrace, as we have with the retailers. And the support of people like you is going to be most important as we look to stand these types of businesses up. So I'm just curious your thoughts on, so cannabis consumption in a regulated environment?
I don't have enough information on the upcoming regulations. So I do not want to give an answer on something I have not researched or have a knowledge of. I am interested in the follow-up, and since we have a lot of Davis Square representation here as well, I'm sure that we have a lot to talk about with that. But I'm absolutely happy to follow up and hear more and learn more about what you are what these regulations are, and how you think that it would impact Davis Square, and how you it is an ongoing dialogue, but I want to hear.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Haley Adams. If you can unmute. Haley, we'll come back to you if you want to raise your hand again. Haley, I'm going to go to Ben Weiner, Save More Spirits. Are you with us, Ben?
Yes, I'm trying to be in.
All right.
Thin facial. There we go. And
Good
I'll
to
put
see you.
down my hand. Oh, hand. I'm getting to be a real sport on this. Hi, Counselor. Again, maybe it's all self-serving, but recently in July, we received a letter, all tobacco vendors in Somerville received a letter stating now that everyone who attempts to buy a tobacco or nicotine product must be asked for an ID. It is no longer safe to assume someone's age is older than 21. The state law says that even people who look elderly must be asked for an ID. Now, we are in the business that requires identification. We do not ask someone my age for an ID. It could be, it's inconvenient. There are laws on the book already that if I am caught violating a law, whether it's tobacco or alcohol, to someone who is not of age, we are subjected to severe fines. As a result, we are very conscientious about asking for identification. Now, originally, I thought this was an edict from the 5 communities. It's a city tobacco initiative that was sponsored by Cambridge, Chelsea, Everett, Revere, Somerville, and Winthrop. And we all want to stop tobacco or alcohol from getting into the hands of minors. And we take this charge seriously. What I find offensive about this, number one, they're referring to the state edict, which I was aware of up to a point when it said that if you had to ask somebody who was older than 20, younger looking than 23, the state had that as a guideline. Well, apparently in 2020, during the pandemic, they changed it. And as far as I know, notification was given to my stores that now I would be in violation if I don't ask somebody as old as Jack for an ID for buying a pack of cigarettes. I think the problem with this, number one, the intent is fine, but what's not fine is I piss off customers. And I'm in a business that tries to serve people. And the last thing I need to do is to tell a customer that looks like Jack or myself, I can't sell you a pack of cigarettes because you don't have your license with you. I think that's ludicrous. And I was going to kind of circle in on you in Somerville by now see it's a bigger problem. And that where this can lead to is kind of frightening. I find that when government imposes regulations without discussion, there was no discussion about this when the 5 cities decided to send out this letter in July. There was no, hey, by the way, this is going out. Would you like some input from the very people that get affected by it? And that's very offensive. If you're going to sponsor a regulation in this day and age without discussing it with the people who are most affected, I think that's very, I think it's illegal, but it's certainly in poor judgment and not very business friendly. And I just, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to attend, besides saying hello to you, is that this could give people ideas that should this go into alcohol, just for Somerville, put for an example, and people get offended by it and say, well, the heck with this. Now, I notice Medford is not part of this regulation or further strengthening of the state regulation. And I don't need people to go to Medford because this, you know what? I don't feel like going to Save More, because even though I like them and everything, I forgot my ID and I'm 39, 50 years old or whatever. And I'm not going to be hassled there because I can't show an ID and I'm going to go to Everett or whatever. Anyway, this is a situation, I think it's troubling for me in the sense that I've been mandated to do something that I've already been charged to do something with. And you have a lash, you have the whip, and we're still being, sting operations are going on, and that's fine. And I always tell my people how important asking for an ID is. So anyway, I know I don't want to keep on going here, but this, I hope as a city council, before anything that was local became an ordinance, that there'd be substantial opportunities for a discussion with the people who are most affected. Thank you.
Ben, I'm really glad for you bringing attention to this, and this is why I'm also really grateful for the chamber to allow this conversation to have, because this is the kind of on the ground situations that this is in your field. Now, do you know, I guess my immediate follow-up questions are, you said it was a 5 city, so this is not state mandated. And I want to make clear that I can see where the logic was behind this, because we do have bad actors in our community and in our city that are absolutely selling to minors, and a lot of people, we're trying to do we can to curb that, especially with vaping and the addiction behind vaping of of tobacco and teenagers. So I understand the logic of that, but I understand what you're saying too. So my first question is this state regulated? Did this come through the licensing commission? Did this come from Somerville Cares About Prevention? Where is this? Where is it? Where did the letter come from?
The letter in question is dated July 11th, and I will send you a copy of that. And while we were on, I also looked up the regulation for selling tobacco in Massachusetts. And apparently that's where I got my information, that the effective date was June 20th, 2020. I'll also send you that.
Yeah.
But the thrust of this whole thing is, again, all of a sudden deciding because of a few bad apples, now the whole barrel has got to get thrown out and be subjected to anti-business procedures at a time where we're struggling, and we don't want to say no to somebody who is obviously buying a regulated product and is of age, but has to be told that I'll be fined if the Somerville inspector happens to watch Jack come into my store and ask for a pack of cigarettes, and I don't ask him, now I'm subjected to $1,000 fine? That's
I hear what
that's
you're saying.
ridiculous. I mean,
I hear what you're saying.
they've
We'll
gone too far.
find out more
Thank you.
information about this. Thank you. Thank you for the conversation on this. We'll follow up.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ben. Who's next? Who wants to throw their hand up and go in next? Mayor Brown, did I say?
You know, I generally like to just sit and listen because I think it's more incumbent for me to allow the business people to do all the talking they can and get it off their minds as to what's wrong with the city or what's wrong with the laws and so forth. But seeing that nobody wants to raise their hand and we still have time, maybe I'd like to offer a few of my suggestions. Number one is that when I came into the city in 1980, the city was divided. And the mayor had it so that if you were for the mayor in his administration, you were on the good side. If you're not, you're on the bad side. And we had an awful lot of problems, and I had an awful lot of problems to get up there in front of the Chamber of Commerce and say, I'm different, that the city, I don't want the city divided. It's the worst thing in the world to have the city divided. We need the Chamber of Commerce more than what people think, because when I want to do a cleanup, when I want to do certain things for the city, when I want to do certain things to make business better, I go to the Chamber. So how can we criticize the Chamber and then go ask them for favors? So I worked out fine with me because I got everything I ever asked for from the Chamber of Commerce, and I asked for a lot. And they gave me a lot. And I remember Ben Weiner when I was the mayor, and he was great. He was a great businessman. We never had a problem with him, with his liquor stores and whatever. Never had a problem with Ben for any reason. But the city is divided, and we have to really understand that. And I don't think the council understands it. I think that sad to say, that the city is made up of people now that some of them all they care about. They don't even know who the mayor is. They wouldn't even know who you were. But they only vote when somebody tells them, please vote for these people. And that is bad business. But the problem is that they're only listening to certain people. And I think there's an awful lot of people, and rightfully so, they want safe bus lines, they want safe bicycle paths, they wanted all of those things. I made the first bicycle path when I brought the red line in, and they're important. But we have to understand that there's a lot of other things that's important. We're not a city up in the suburbs where we don't have much traffic. We have hundreds of thousands of cars going through this city a day. Some of them don't belong to us. But I think you have to understand that there are problems out there that you have to recognize. And I think you have to understand that when the city has a meeting, and I get this a lot, when city has a meeting, they discuss an awful lot of the time discussing what is right for the city. And when it comes time for people to raise their hands, a lot of them are shut off. And now I don't know if that's true or not, because I don't go to those meetings, but I'm told that. And I'm told about a lot of other things that there's no transparency. So I think one of the subjects that you have to talk about, how do we make the city whole again and not divided? And I think there's an awful lot of ways to do it. And it has to come with people having common sense to listening to the problems, attack the problem, and make a solution. And I think that's what each and every councilor should do. I was an alderman for 6 years, so I know what they go through. And I was the mayor for 10 years, and I know that. And I was the register of deeds for 24, and I know the problems with the city and with the state and so forth. But you have to resolve those problems and just say, well, it's the state, it's the federal, it's this, it's that. Go see your mayor. Every problem is an opportunity to make a final solution that will keep business together, keep people together, and stop the city from being divided, because it's an unhealthy situation for a city that I was born in and I love.
And Mayor Brune, I just want to say, thank you for getting us to this point as a community and helping us get here.
You're
And
You're welcome. Thank you.
no, absolutely. And I see our work together that we must be able to work with everyone. And I see it as seeing this sparkle in everybody's eyes in community, that we focus on community. It is my constituents, and that I work for my constituents. I work for the best of all of us in the community. That's our goal. I see us as a community. We have to focus on that and really just look at the bright side of this. I'm going to try not to gush, but I try to see the optimism in this and the glimmer and hope of all of it. We really are a community here. That's one thing I like. And one thing I often say is that we're not, one thing I love is that everyone does have an opinion in Somerville. Everyone does. And I love that because we are not going to agree on everything, but you aren't encouraging anyone for civic participation or an opinion on something. and that's really special and something to cherish.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilor. Next, we'll go to Ed McDonald.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Ed McDonald, Senior Director of Development with Biomed Realty. Kristen, thank you for actually giving this audience to the City Council board. This is really wonderful, and I know you've done a great job at the City Council and in your last couple of terms. I live in Charlestown myself, so what happens in Somerville, particularly in Assembly Square, is very very important and dear to my heart. And I'm excited to be actually working on a development there that's so close to my heart. The question that I have is, as a resident of Assembly Row and a city councilor, I'd be interested to understand your view of commercial development in the Assembly Square district, especially in light of Federal Realty's master plan for the Assembly Square Mall and the recent purchase of the Home Depot site by Cabot and Forbes. As a biomed employee and a developer, and someone who lives very close to the site that we're working on, I see Assembly Square as a real burgeoning mini city. It's really fantastic what Federal's done so far, and then bringing in the corporate headquarters for Puma and for Mass General Brigham. It's a really amazing mixed use district. I'd be interested to know specifically kind of what your views are on kind of current development taking place, and how you would like to see the area evolve. I think personally, with respect to that, I see Assembly as, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the next Kendall Square, because that would be kind of not giving it enough due. I think that Kendall Square is changing. There's more housing coming there, hopefully more affordable housing with the Volpe plan. It's actually becoming the kind of city it always should be. I would love to see Assembly Square district of Somerville kind of grow in that same way. And personally, I feel like it needs to be a really robust, solid mixed use development. I'd be interested to just kind of understand, what your thoughts are as a resident and a city councilor, and in particular, maybe speak a little bit about the life sciences business and how that is playing into this development, what your thoughts are in general.
Well, I want to first thank you for choosing Somerville. And I see and I hear your passion, and I love an assembly question, but I will say this: I see us as partners, all of us as partners, and community input as partners as well, and investing in Somerville as Somerville, and with the goal of Somerville, all of us investing in the fact of us thriving together in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and as together. I think that Assembly, when it first started, was a bit of a microcosm on its own, kind of independent source, but it has grown into the community now, meaning that part of Somerville. And one thing I personally delight, meaning that I think it has grown. It's nice to see it on its own and budding and flourishing. Now flourishing, not budding anymore. Now flourishing. It's an amazing place, and I delight in Assembly being one point in Somerville where we can boast to come here and spend a day and look at the lake and watch the ducks, and then also take a dance lesson down the street for free on a Sunday, I'm sorry, on a Friday night, or have date night. One thing I talk about frequently is I see lots of couples that come here for date night, and I see Assembly as one of our something that that other communities or other people come to experience, and that's really cool. So I feel that Assembly now is absolutely sealed into Somerville as part of us in just one corner, as we have in each. And it's I think I can go on, but I hope that's a good start. What I'd like to see more is the concept of a bike valet, or where we now have these great community paths coming around and being built, have been built, and will continue to be built. I would love to see cyclists from Arlington and Malden, and we do get some, and we have consistent cyclists that use our bike paths for their morning commute. But I'd like to see people come here to shop, bring their cargo bikes and just shove it full of their purchases and car-free cycle home. I feel that we would need more of a cycle valet, and this is kind of my dream for past years, that we can make this possible. Other ways for people to have that experience and then go home to their communities and talk about the great time they had in the afternoon they had in Assembly, part of Somerville.
That's great. Thank you very much. Yeah, the bike valet concept is interesting. I want to just follow up on that. What's your thought or your vision? Yeah, would it be, for instance, an actual retail establishment where you can park your bike and then pay a little bit to have somebody basically kind of like, kind of safeguard the bike or is it do you have a vision for that?
Yes, I something that has a very firm like lock system,
Mm.
that there would be I would say, Valley, not that you hand it off to someone, but just that it's like an independent room or area where you can. I originally envisioned it something like the Red Line cage bikes in Davis Square, something similar to that.
Yeah. Yep.
But
I'm familiar.
right, but something a little more constant or flowing, or that, because it would be a longer conversation, but I really feel like we can encourage other communities to even just come and shop and go use this Trader Joe's, not Christmas Tree Shop, rest in peace, but other Save More Liquors, or other community our businesses. I'd also like to see more small businesses get some in Assembly, get more rent stabilization, or the concept of like protection for smaller businesses that cannot compete with the big corporations, but are really a flavor of Somerville. One thing I'd love to see in Assembly is more of a showcase of our artists and our creative stock here in Assembly, as that touch point of people that have never been to Somerville, but small businesses that want to also have have like maybe lowered cost in rent or something that they can stay in assembly as well. Those are just some thoughts I've heard.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor, and thank you, Ed. Somebody we have not heard from yet, Adam Dash.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, good afternoon, Counselor. I wanted to ask you specifically, what sort of change in the zoning or permitting would you support that would help businesses in the city?
Longer conversation. We have 9 minutes left. Happy to talk further about this. I think preserving our small businesses and our communities to make sure that we can really preserve our Somerville small businesses is paramount. With rising rents, with costs going up consistently. But I definitely want to talk further about this. I don't have a specific answer for you at this very second, but the general vision of focusing on that is very important to me. And I'm hoping that also that that we can flesh some of that out in the anti-displacement task force and other studies that are coming. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Adam, is there, Dash, is there another follow-up you'd like to make? Or?
I was going to say that the chamber, I'm sure, has plenty of suggestions that we could provide the counselor.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Now, if I may, I'm going to go to the chair of the board from Middlesex Federal, Adam Portney.
Hey, thanks, Stephen. So Kristen, I'm glad that you brought up bikes because I think one of the things that we talk about a lot more in a very different way, and there's a huge disconnect between the business community and the city council, is bikes. The bike lanes are taking away parking spaces. The bike lanes are taking away access to stores. And the bike lanes, in a lot of situations, are displacing businesses in Somerville, including the small businesses that you're trying to protect, a lot more than landlords are. The economy right now is not pushing landlords to increase rents in the way that you're talking about. In fact, landlords are doing what they can to keep tenants, especially small businesses, and making concessions to tenants more than they ever have because of the capital markets and the lack of businesses and the big boxes and the Amazons and everything else that's pushing them out. The thing that the city can do is stop taking away the parking in front of businesses, the small businesses that need them, and stop taking away the roads to give to bikes. To me, and to a lot of people that I talk to in this chamber, biking is a privilege. I know a lot of the people who vote and live in Somerville are transient, and biking is something that they want to do, and they feel that other things are a privilege. But to a lot of people on this call here, biking is a privilege, and they cannot go and shop for a full family on their bike. And they cannot go to Save More and buy the kind of like beer and all that and put it on a bike. This is not something. They can't go out to dinners and have drinks or anything like that. This not biking won't support assembly, and it won't support a lot of other things. I think that there's a place for bikes, but also what can we do to put some of those parking meters back in front of the businesses and talk to small business before the parking is taken away?
That's a good question. And I want to make clear that I'm not like biking is going to save assembly. It's an and. It's an and. And I, first off, thank you for the feedback. And one of the things that I focus on, and I when I say about community is the fact that I don't want the pendulum swing as the either or. I see things as and how we talk through this, because I do want to make sure that that it is sustained and that residents and people can get to shop and make like a quick minute decision of stopping somewhere to get to like a restaurant or fast food for dinner, or stopping in East Somerville on the way to Charlestown and be like, okay, I am going to bring dinner home for my sweetheart. I'm going to surprise them at along the way, one of the, picking up a meal at Vinny's or something, or La Brasa. So I hear you, and this is an ongoing conversation. And my push for this is not the pendulum swing that it's either or, because I know what you've all endured during the pandemic, and I brought that up in the beginning because I need to validate it. Y'all have been through hell in the past couple of years, and you've made it through. You've made it through. And now we have to make sure that we're making collaborative decisions. And that one of the things I say when I say that I hear and I'm here to listen and I'm here to talk, take that feedback and say, well, this is what this is saying, this is what that's saying, and really make collaborative decisions on that. It's all of us. And for those that can bike and for those that can, I want you to be able to do that and safely and not get harmed. That's important. But we are a community that has various levels. And I see that too.
Thank you.
Councilor, we're coming up on the hour. I want to thank you very much for stepping up and being the first to join us this season. We look forward to working with you. We appreciate, I appreciate greatly the willingness to collaborate and address some tough issues. Get everybody in the room. Let's talk it through. We're a community, we're neighborhoods. Let's be friends, even if we disagree and come from different perspectives. We always want to offer the business economic perspective and how it helps everyone and contributes to everything the city does in terms of municipal services. So really, thank you for taking the time to delve into some of these questions. I want to let everybody know that we'll be back again with virtually Somerville next Tuesday at noon. We're going to have Councilor at Large Jake Wilson next week. But Councilor, it's all yours. If you'd like any parting message, please, let's hear it.
No, I thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate you bringing up these issues. I appreciate the dialogue. I want to know about it. I always say, this door is open. I'm happy to talk. I want to hear about concerns. I want to see how we can continue to thrive together. This is us, all of us. And thank you so much for this conversation.
Excellent. And thank you everybody for joining us. Have a great afternoon.